Welcome to World News. This is Shekina. Let's get into the latest world updates. Well, we begin with the historic SpaceX of NASA. A historic SpaceX flight took off from NASA's Kennedy Space Center on Monday night, carrying Bitcoin investor Chum Wang and three polar explorers on a groundbreaking journey. Wang, a Chinese-born entrepreneur, purchased this flight for himself and his companions, making this the first ever rocket ride to travel over both the North and South Poles. The mission marks a significant milestone in commercial space travel, with Wang expressing excitement about the unique opportunity. The flight is not only a personal achievement for the investors, but also a leap forward in private space exploration, showcasing the increasing interest from individuals in investing in space tourism.
Ignition and liftoff. Copy, 1 Alpha. Vehicle pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
We're seeing there on the first stage vehicle to slow
Stage 1, throttle down.
and we've got a live stage 2.
Copy, stage 2.
Legs are deployed. And touchdown after 6 flights. And it's separation.
Launch director here. Pretty wild to see the Prom Adventure sailing to the poles once again, over 130 years from its christening. 1, ignition, and liftoff. Copy, 1 Alpha. Vehicle pitching downrange. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
You're seeing there on the first stage vehicle to slow
Stage 1, throttle down.
and we've got a
The devastating earthquake that struck Myanmar last week has further exacerbated the country's ongoing humanitarian crisis, with the death toll now surpassing 2,000. Rescue teams continue to work around the clock, searching through the rubble in hopes of finding survivors, while efforts to clear the debris and provide aid to the affected areas intensify. This catastrophe comes at a time when Myanmar is already grappling with political instability and economic challenges, making the relief efforts even more complex. The full extent of the damage is still being assessed, but it is clear that the impact on both the population and infrastructure is immense. International aid and support are critical as the country faces the monumental task of recovery and rebuilding. Well, coming into Middle East, an Israeli airstrike early Tuesday targeted a building in southern Beirut, resulting in the deaths of at least 3 people and injuring at least 7 others, according to the Lebanese Health Ministry. The Israeli military confirmed that the strike was aimed at a member of the Hezbollah militant group who was allegedly involved in assisting the Palestinian Hamas group in its attacks against Israel. This attack came just days after Israel launched a similar strike on Beirut, marking the first such assault since a ceasefire ended the conflict between Israeli forces and Hezbollah in November. The violence continues to escalate, raising concerns over the stability of the region.
عادي اعتداء غاشم من الإسرائيلية مثل ما بيعملوا بالعادة، عم يختاروا الأراضي الدولية غارة مثل ما الأراضي اللبنانية مباحة لهم مثل العادة. كنا قاعدين بالبيت، بتعرف انت عيد فطور، قاعدين كل واحد خلص أشغاله وما عنده أشغال وقاعدين عم صار الدورة عدوان غاشم. ما عرفنا وين صاير، عم بس أشعر طبيعي بينت البناية اللي تغرب وجبين. عادي اعتداء غاشم من الإسرائيلية مثل ما بيعملوا بالعادة، عم يختاروا الأراضي الدولية غارة مثل ما الأراضي اللبنانية مباحة لهم مثل العادة. كنا قاعدين بالبيت، بتعرف انت عيد فطور، قاعدين كل واحد خلص أشغاله وما عنده أشغال وقاعدين عم صار الدورة عدوان غاشم. ما عرفنا وين صاير، عم بس أشعر طبيعي بينت البناية اللي تغرب وجبين. عادي اعتداء غاشم.
Well, getting back to the Asian countries, Chinese rescue teams are intensifying their efforts to save survivors from the wreckage of the Sky Villa condominium complex in Mandalay, Myanmar, following last week's devastating earthquake. The building, which collapsed in the quake, has trapped numerous people beneath the terrace, working around the clock and employing advanced technology, including the snake eye detector. Rescuers have successfully saved 3 people so far, including a child and a pregnant woman. With the critical 72-hour rescue window quickly closing, teams continue to search relentlessly despite rising temperatures and deteriorating conditions. As the disaster unfolds, the situation remains dire, but the determination of the rescue team offers a glimmer of hope amid the devastation.
那么此时此刻呢，我们也请大家来关注一下，我去听一听里面有没有相应的回音。那整个现在的这样我们所在的天空，有多支的救援力量在通过这种破拆的手段，想办法去把这个楼板的钢筋，包括混凝土的结构进行清理，逐一的去想办法找到里边的通道。那么每打开一层楼板呢，我们就会通过敲击的方式，全场静默。民众啊就在不断的找到我们的中国救援队给我们提供线索。那么此时此刻呢，我们也请大家来关注一下，我去听一听里面有没有相应的回音。那整个现在的这样我们所在的天空，有多支的救援力量在通过这种破拆的手段，想办法去把这个楼板的钢筋，包括混凝土的结构进行清理，逐一的去想办法找到里边的通道。那么每打开一层楼板呢，我们就会通过敲击的方式，全场静默。民众啊就在不断的找到我们的中国救援队给我们提供线索。那么此时此刻呢，我们也请大家来关注一下，我去听一听里面有没有相应的回音。那整个现在的这样我们所在的天空，有多支的救援力量在通过这种破拆的手段，想办法去把这个楼板的钢筋，包括混凝土的结构进行清理，逐一的去想办法找到里边的通道。那么每打开一层楼板呢，我们就会通过敲击的方式，全场静默。民众啊就在不断的找到我们的中国救援队给我们提供线索。那么此时此刻呢，我们也请大家来关注一下，我去听一听里面有没有相应的回音。那整个现在的这样我们所在的天空，有多支的救援力量在通过这种破拆的手段，想办法去把这个楼板的钢筋，包括混凝土的结构进行清理，逐一的去想办法找到里边的。
Well, let's take a look at the US President Donald Trump, which is set to implement new reciprocal tariffs on Wednesday, April 2, a move he has dubbed Liberation Day. These tariffs are expected to impact a wide array of goods imported into the United States, further escalating trade tensions with key trading partners. The decision comes amid ongoing concerns about the economic impact of rising consumer prices, as American shoppers are likely to feel the strain from increased costs on everyday items. The new tariffs reflect Trump's continued push for protectionist policies, but economists warn that they could lead to disruptions in supply chains and further inflationary pressures. As the rollout begins, businesses and consumers alike are bracing for the financial consequences.
With 1 day to go until President Trump announces his reciprocal tariffs for what he calls Liberation Day, major questions remain. Will any countries be exempt? How high will the tariffs be? And how long will they last? Trump's tariffs escalating a trade war that most economists say will cost consumers more, raising the prices of what Americans buy on everything from clothing to food at the grocery store, including bananas, strawberries, and avocados. Trump argues the tariffs will create American manufacturing and boost revenue, but the economic uncertainty is leading Goldman Sachs to raise the probability of a U.S. recession in the next year to 35%, up from 15% last fall. Some Senate Republicans appear to be skeptical.
Coming back to Middle East, Iran's supreme leader has reportedly issued a stern warning to the United States in response to the President Donald Trump's recent threat of military action. The warning comes after Trump gave Iran a 2-month ultimatum to accept a new nuclear deal or face potential military action. The Iranian leader emphasized that the consequences of failing to resolve the situation diplomatically would be dire, with Iran prepared to deliver a strong blow if necessary. Tensions between the two nations have significantly escalated due to the looming deadline for the nuclear deal negotiations.
مواضعی است که بود دشمنی آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی هم همونی است که بود تهدید میکنن که شرارت خواهند کرد. البته اگر شرارتی انجام بگیره ما خیلی اطمینان نداریم، احتمال زیاد نمیدیم که از بیرون شرارتی انجام بگیره، اما اگر شرارتی انجام بگیره قطعاً ضربه متقابل محکم خواهند خورد. خداوند شما رو موفق و مؤید بده. خداوند شما رو موفق و مؤید بده.
مد ظله العالی.
و علی آله الاطیبین الاطهرین المنتجبین. هر کس به هر اندازه‌ای آداب ماه رمضان رو مراعات کنن. ملت‌های دنیا عصبانی ان، ناراحتن تا اونجایی که اطلاع دارن از بسیاری از مسائل، از جنایات کشورهای دنیا، ملت‌های دنیا اطلاع ندارن. اینی که می‌بینید تو خیابان‌های اروپا و حتی آمریکا علیه رژیم صهیونیستی شعار میدن به خاطر اطلاعات محدود اونهاست. اطلاعات بیشتری داشته باشن بیشتر از این هم میکنن. نتیجه این حرفایی که عرض میکنم اینه که این گروه تبهکار باید از فلسطین ریشه کن بشود. مواضع ما همه بدانند مواضع ما همون مواضعی است که بود. دشمنی آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی هم همونی است که بود. تهدید میکنن که شرارت خواهند کرد. البته اگر شرارتی انجام بگیره ما خیلی اطمینان نداریم، احتمال زیاد نمیدیم که از بیرون شرارتی انجام بگیره، اما اگر شرارتی انجام بگیره قطعاً ضربه متقابل محکم خواهند خورد. اگر به فکر این باشن که در داخل کشور فتنه راه بیاندازن مثل بعضی از سالهای قبل که راه انداختن، جوابشون رو خود ملت ایران خواهند داد، همچنانی که در گذشته دادند.
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has shared that his first trip during his second presidential term will likely include visits to several key countries in the Middle East. He mentioned that Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Qatar are among the nations he plans to visit, with additional stops to be added to the itinerary. This diplomatic journey is expected to strengthen U.S. relations with these countries, focusing on strategic and economic partnerships.
I have a very good relationship with the Middle East. In fact, if you look at Michigan, I won the vote by a lot. People were a little surprised. And I have a very good relationship with Mohammed and the king. His son is Mohammed, he's great. Crown Prince, actually he's Prime Minister too. He's got a lot of good titles. But he's great, and the king has been wonderful. And if you remember, last time I went to Saudi Arabia, I put him first on the list because they agreed to buy $450 billion worth of American goods, military and otherwise. And they did, and it was an unbelievable day. It was in this gorgeous ballroom, and companies were there from many, probably 100 companies, and they were given anywhere from $40 or $50 million to less. And more, actually. In case some of them were given numbers that were just many times that amount. I think we had a couple of $20 billion deals, big stuff. And it's a very rich country because of oil. And we are a very rich country, ultimately, when we straighten it out because of oil. Oil is always good. And I agreed to do it again, and they've agreed to spend close to $1 trillion of money in our American companies, which to me means jobs. So they're going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars giving them to American companies that are going to be making equipment for Saudi Arabia and other places in the Middle East. And for that, I think it's worth it. I did it last time, $450 billion, and the press was there. It was one of the most unique days I've ever seen, where companies would get up and you're getting $20 billion. They named the company, and the chairmen were all there, every chairman and top person in the company. You remember that, Peter? I don't know if you were there. You might be too young for that.
I was on the Democratic campaign trail.
It was boring. This was a much better deal. But it was amazing, actually. It was an amazing day. We sold and we partook in $450 billion worth of investment into American companies. And they announced the company, the amount of money, $1 billion, $5 billion, $25 billion. And the chairman of the company, many of whom, well-known figures, prestigious figures, great business leaders, they went up, they shook the hand of somebody, and they would sit down, and we just had a big investment made. So it was a record. Nobody ever beat it before. $450 billion worth of jobs. I view it as jobs more than anything else. And now we're close to $1 trillion. So it's more than double the number that we did when I first came to office.
And this trip takes place next month.
It could be next month, maybe a little bit later, yeah. And we're going to Qatar also. And also we're going to possibly a couple of other countries. UAE is very important. It's a great leader in UAE. And And I had his brother here the other night, if you saw that. We had a wonderful guy, a wonderful family. So we'll probably stop at UAE and Qatar, and as I used to call it, Qatar. Nobody's ever...
Let's take a look at the Denmark. Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen has stated that Denmark looks forward to increased cooperation with the United States on Arctic security. His comments followed US Vice President J.D. Vance's accusation that Denmark had not been doing enough to ensure the safety of Greenland, which is a key area of strategic importance due to its location in the Arctic. Rasmussen expressed hope for a constructive dialogue on security issues in the region, emphasizing the importance of collaboration between the two nations.
Much is being said these days. Many accusations and many allegations have been made. And of course, we are open to criticism. But let me be completely honest. We do not appreciate the tone in which it's being delivered. This is not how you speak to your close allies. And I still consider Denmark and the United States to be close allies. We respect that the United States needs a greater military presence in Greenland, as Vice President Vance mentioned this evening. We, Denmark and Greenland, are very much open to discussing this with you, with an open mind. We still have the defense agreement from 1951. It offers ample opportunity for the United States to have a much stronger military presence in Greenland. If that is what you wish, then let us discuss it. In 1945, the United States had 17 bases and military installations in Greenland with thousands of soldiers. Today, only one American base is left, the one Vice President Vance visited a few hours ago, and something like 200 soldiers. We can do more, much more, within the framework we have today. Let us make use of that, and let us do it together.
Hey guys, how we doing? Please, at ease. At ease. Good Lord, sit down and eat. Sit down and eat. Don't let the Vice President stop you guys from getting your chow here. How we doing? It's cold as shit here. Nobody told me.
The Vice President also stated that Denmark has done too little in the Arctic. The other day, he said that the United States has also done too little. And the fact is that we have all been harvesting the peace dividend. We all acted on the assumption that the Arctic was and should be a low-tension area. But that time is over. Status quo is not an option. And that is why we have stepped up as well. With $1 billion investment in Arctic security just a few weeks ago, an investment that will provide more drones, more ships, more personnel, and more will come later this year.
Coming back to United States, after a 6-day search, a U.S. armored vehicle that had gone missing in Louisiana had been successfully retrieved from a swamp, according to Lithuanian officials. However, as of the latest updates, there is no information on the whereabouts or condition of the 4 American soldiers who were aboard the vehicle at the time of its disappearance. Lithuanian military police and U.S. investigators are continuing the efforts to piece together the events surrounding the incident, with the investigation still ongoing.
Yeah, Jeff?
Mr. President, have you had any updates on the U.S. soldiers missing in Lithuania?
I have.
Can you give us an update?
So 3 are no longer with us, and 1 is unfortunately probably in the same category, but they haven't declared that yet. It was a very heavy truck, like I told you, but I mean, really heavy. It lifted the heaviest equipment, and it would seem that the bank of the lake collapsed. You know, the weight is so big. And it was at night, and it was very cold weather, and ice, a lot of ice, and it's possibly slipped, and the weight is so enormous of this thing.
NASA astronaut Butchwell Moore has recently shared insights into the ongoing challenges faced by the Starliner spacecraft program. Wilmore, who was part of several space missions, spoke candidly about the setbacks experienced by the Starliner mission, including technical failures and delays in its progress. In an interview, Wilmore discussed the reasons behind the failure of the spacecraft's recent missions and emphasized the collaboration between NASA and Boeing to resolve the issues. He expressed confidence that the challenges would be overcome, leading to more successful missions in the future.
Question is for you. Where do you lay the blame for your Starliner test flight? Clearly, Starliner was not ready to fly when it did. Whom do you hold responsible for everything that happened? Thanks.
There were some issues, of course, that happened with Starliner. There were some issues, of course, that happened that prevented us from returning on Starliner. And I'll start with me. There were questions that I, as the commander of the spacecraft, that I should have asked, and I did not. At the time, I didn't know I needed to. And maybe you could call that hindsight, but I'll start and point the finger and I'll blame me. I could ask some questions, and the answers to those questions could have turned the tide. So blame, that's a term, I don't like that term, but certainly there's responsibility throughout all the programs, and certainly you can start with me. Responsibility with Boeing? Yes. Responsibility with NASA? Yes. All the way up and down the chain. We all are responsible. We all own this. And we are, in this business, trust, you cannot do this business without trust. You have to have ultimate trust. And for someone to step forward and these different organizations say, hey, I'm culpable for part of that issue, that goes a long way to maintaining trust. So we're not going to look back and say this happened or that happened and that person or that issue or that entity's to blame. We're going to look forward and say, what are we going to use our lessons learned from this whole process and make sure that we are successful in the future. This is a tough business. The analogy about it, it's always a curvy road. It's never straight in this business.
Astronaut Sunita Williams, alongside Butch Wilmore, has been adjusting to life back on Earth after their extended stay aboard the International Space Station ISS. In a recent update, it was revealed that both astronauts are continuing their collaboration with Boeing to enhance the Starliner spacecraft, which faced significant setbacks during its missions. They are scheduled to meet with Boeing leaders to discuss future developments and improvements that will help ensure the spacecraft's success in future space missions.
Went to bed. Felt good. Lay down on a bed for the first time in 9 months was pretty awesome. I crashed until the next day, and then just, trying to get up and trying to move around and understand gravity. Went through a bunch of tests, and then that evening I got to come home and see my dogs who were waiting for me. So that was pretty special. It's pretty hard when you come back, and it doesn't mean you don't even have to be up there 9 months. Like my other missions were 6 and 5 months. And you do feel pretty nauseous when you first get back. It's just that inner ear neurovestibular feeling for the first 24 to 48 hours. And I knew, having gone up twice before, that it was just a matter of time. So I was like, just push through it. You got this. I mean, just make yourself get up. Make yourself go take a shower and just push over those things and make yourself walk down on a line to just work on all of those little small agility muscles. And our trainers are doing that with us as well, of course. And
NASA astronaut Sunita Williams recently shared her awe at the breathtaking view of India from space. She described the sight as amazing, noting how India's vast network of lights stood out in the dark expanse of space. Williams emphasized the unique perspective she gained during her time aboard the International Space Station, which allowed her to witness firsthand the country's vibrancy and scale from above, offering a rare and mesmerizing view of the subcontinent.
Welcome everyone. My question to Sunny is that Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO chief has said that India wishes to utilize your expertise in space exploration. So is there any scope of hope that we can see you working or collaborating with ISRO, that is Indian Space Research Organization, in future? And second part of this question is, while being in ISS and seeing India from space, Is there any moment you would like to share?
These going down through the smaller cities, just incredible to look at night as well as during the day, highlighted of course by the Himalayas, which was just incredible as a forefront going down into India. I hope, and I think for sure, I'm going to be going back to my father's home country and visiting with people and getting excited about the first, or not the first, but the Indian astronauts who's going up on.
A massive fire broke out today in Potter Heights, a suburb near Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, after a gas pipeline burst. The fire created a towering inferno visible from several kilometers away, prompting evacuations from nearby residential areas. Firefighters identified the explosion as originating from a Petronas gas pipeline. The flames reportedly engulfed an area approximately 500 meters in length. Dramatic video footage posted on social media depicted a large mushroom cloud rising from the site, with nearby residents reporting shaking windows and doors. Authorities have isolated the affected pipeline section and shut down nearby stations as a precaution while emergency crews work to contain the blaze. The extent of casualties or damage remains unconfirmed as investigation continues. Well, these are the latest world updates. For more such updates, keep watching CVR English.